Welcome to Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation possible. You will get to hear from CSIA system integrators and industry partners to get a better understanding of how they help their clients solve process challenges and how they've earned success in their careers. Along the way, we will touch on system integration best practices, technology, trends, and challenges. Whether you are a manufacturer, end user, supplier, or system integrator, you will enjoy the insights these industry professionals bring to this podcast. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Lisa Richter, the host of Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation and processing possible. In today's episode, we're talking industrial automation with Jeromy Peterson, who is CEO and president of Ripple Industries, an automation and control systems integration company that he founded 17 years ago. During that time, he has led the company through evolving landscapes of technology and business with vision and adaptability. All told, Jeromy has more than 25 years in the industry where he stands out as a leader deeply invested in the advancement of automation technologies, dedicated to both the growth of his company and the development of cutting-edge solutions that meet modern needs. Along the way, he also earned 3 bachelor's degrees, a master's degree, and several certifications. An educational journey that reflects his diverse interests and commitment to understanding complex systems. Whew. Okay, Jeromy, welcome to the podcast.
That was very flattering. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Let's start at the very beginning. Tell me how you, or did you, choose a career in control system integration?
Gosh, desperation. Really, truly.
Okay, honest answer. We love it.
In a way, I guess I might say that the career sort of chose me. I was attending school time, working on my first bachelor's degrees, and I was home from an extended 2-year stay out of the country, and I was young. And I took the first job that was offered to me, and it was at the sewage plant in Apache Junction, Arizona.
Oh, my goodness.
The sewage plant was kind of a shoot from your hip type of old Wild West sewage plant. It came with the dirtiest jobs imaginable. And that's for an entirely different podcast altogether, right?
Yeah. But I think somebody named Mike did that, but okay.
Oh, is that right?
Don't you know awesome. That dirty jobs, Mike?
That's
something?
Right. Somebody's done that one already. But in all honesty, in the midst of that, I was just kind of like, there has to be something here that does not involve me and a shovel and getting covered in all the stuff that you might imagine getting covered in at a low-tech sewage plant. And at that time, they had an old-fashioned, it was a square D Cymax system. Most people won't even remember or recognize what that was, but it was a control system at the time, and they were working on an upgrade, and it was paired with a GE HMI. And I said, the boss was willing to let me work on it. So I said, hey, can I work on that? And that kind of started it, and I guess I was fortunate enough to realize that, despite any other plans I had in my life, that this was a really good opportunity. It was a great career opportunity. And I haven't looked back since then. I moved on to engineering companies and utility companies and eventually opened my own company. But that's how I got here.
Super interesting. So if you're talking to like a layperson, maybe at a barbecue or something like that, how do you explain to them what it is that you do?
This has evolved over 2 decades. In all honesty, my employees told me that I should not be allowed to explain what we do to other people because I did such a horrible job. So I actually worked on this. There's these aspects of the industry that I like to talk about. And if I'm trying to look impressive, you're at a party and you've got a bunch of friends there and maybe they're all lawyers or whatever they do, construction or doctors sometimes. I like to talk about a little bit of the more buzzwords that there are, like manufacturing, and you like to say robotics. You talk about the big mining equipment that you work on because that's a little bit more impressive. But if somebody's actually genuinely interested in what we do, I usually talk about water and wastewater because it's the simplest systems. And I'll talk about, we automate the machines that fill tanks or that run pumps or that open valves that supply water to your house. Honestly, light bulbs seem to go on when you do that, as opposed to like, oh yeah, manufacturing floors and robotics and big machines and mining crushers and stuff.
I like when the CSIA members are talking about how they're really impacting lives. Like literally keeping the water clean is life-saving, right? I mean, nobody wants cholera or, bad drinking water. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to praise the work of the CSI members, that they really are pharmacies and food and everything a person needs to stay alive. Pretty much CSI members are involved with. And I think that's a cool story to tell. So I appreciate that. So you mentioned water, wastewater. Are there any other industries that you specialize in, or products or disciplines? Tell me a little bit about that.
So most of our vertical market work right now would be in water, wastewater, but an awful lot in mining and an awful lot in power, and probably say 10% of our work in manufacturing. I'd say what we specialized in, and I'm not so sure this is a specialty, maybe it's a superpower, is that we fix broken stuff. We've found an awful lot of our work in maintenance contracts these days, and we find a lot of our best customers that way. I think that the industry right now is booming so much. There is so much growth opportunity. There's so much going on. And the easiest way to make profits in that is to do large jobs, to take out a big project that has a big budget and it keeps your people busy and the profits are easy to control. But we've found that there's a real need for somebody to come in and just help people sometimes in between those projects. Honestly, I think a lot of other companies don't want that work. It's harder work. Honestly, we've had to really work on our business model and how we approach that business in order to fit it into what we are and what we do. And there's been some organic growth there, but there's been some very intentional movement in that direction on our part also. And we do really good with maintenance. We take care of customers on a day-to-day basis. And I like to say that we fix broken stuff.
If you have a dream job, like what vertical would you want to be in, like aerospace, or you think it'd be really cool to work on a Tesla? Like, is there a certain project that, if you're just dreaming, you would love to work on?
There's an awful lot of them.
Yeah.
I always wanted to program a roller coaster. I know it sounds ridiculous. I think that'd be kind of fun. We had a shot at a roller coaster job once, but somebody else beat us to the project, and I was really jealous.
I could see that being a super fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I love that.
Cool. Doing more robotics would be fun. Actually, I met with a company the other day that's building a train on the moon. I know that sounds crazy, and I'm not going to mention the name of the company. I know, right? Is that a thing? All right.
Questions. Yeah.
Questions. I know, right? He was just talking about it. There was only so much he could tell because of the nature that a job like that big obviously comes with some security issues. But I was thinking, man, if we could get on that job at any level, that would be just a hoot. Could we get a ride to the moon out of this? That
would be so cool. I don't think I would get into confined spaces. I don't know. Would you be able to do it?
Yes, I would step out of my executive position and pick up my computer and my tool bag again to get a ride to the moon. That would be the best. The closest thing we've ever done is we actually have a job coming up where they're going to fly us in a helicopter down into the Grand Canyon. And that's pretty fun. Don't get me wrong. If I can't go to the moon, a helicopter ride to the Grand Canyon and to the base of the Grand Canyon does sound pretty fun too.
I would agree with that. I would be terrified, but I think it would be worth it to experience that. That's super cool. Yeah. So tell me about the suppliers that you work with. Are you certified or endorsed with any that you want to talk about?
There's the big players in the industry, and everybody knows, Allen Bradley, Modicon, Ignition. We do an awful lot of ignition for our SCADA system, but Aviva also, and Siemens and Weidmuller, these big names. I'll make sure that the marketing lady at Weidmuller hears this because this is important. I'm going to give a shout out to Weidmuller throughout COVID, after COVID, when a lot of other companies were fighting with COVID, and not blaming them, but there were lead times, huge lead times on things. Weidmuller met our needs. They did a great job of getting us stuff that we needed. They really came through in a pinch a number of times. And so I hope they hear this because we actually really love them for what they did for us.
It's so significant in terms of your cash flow and being able to deliver and paying your employees. Like getting the parts was, and still I think people are there's some stragglers that are still feeling it. So that's an amazing story. Yes. If you're looking at your customers or talking to your customers, what are some of the challenges you're hearing from them that they're complaining about or facing or wanting to talk about?
We're based out of Arizona, so a lot of our municipal customers are water and wastewater and a little bit of power going on here. And Arizona is just going through this massive expansion. I think the last statistic I heard, 30,000 people a year are moving into Arizona. And keeping up with that for them is very, very difficult. So keeping up with that workload. There's one of our customers right now. They were actually, interestingly enough, City of Apache Junction, who I got my original job I told you about from, that terrible job. Their administration come together. The city's growing. They really have built up. They are no longer Wild West shoot from the hips. They're a great company. They're my longest customer because when I left them, they said, hey, can you come back here? And I've come back over and over. They're a 20-year customer for us now. They are facing right now, just in their city limits, I think there's something like 80,000 or 100,000 houses building out that are supposed to build out in the next year to 2 years. It's insane. The growth there is just absolutely ridiculous. And the result for them is, honestly, this is another shout out to their administration. They're doing a great job keeping up with it. And, they're Darren Anglin, I'll say his name. I hope he doesn't mind hearing his name on a podcast, but he's done a spectacular job. And he's got an engineer there and working with him that they are just keeping up with it. And it's amazing. So there's that, there's expansion. Honestly, too, the other thing that I think that people are running into, and this is what we are trying to fill, is that maintenance need. I've had conversations with even some of what people would be our competition, usually bigger than us. I wouldn't say we're necessarily competing with them because they're playing in much bigger projects. But they'll say is that, like, we have a hard time doing maintenance. Can you take our maintenance work? Some of our competition is also our customer, just because when there's so much expansion, it's hard to keep up with day-to-day operations. We fix broken stuff. A lot of times, no, we just add changes. We come in and people are like, it works this way, but we really would hope it worked a little bit differently. And those types of daily needs for control systems are a challenge for a lot of our customers. I like to think they're not a challenge for our customers because we do a good job working on it. But I think that's a challenge.
There you go. There you go. I think about Arizona a lot. Like, is that a lot of people are retiring there? And also, where's the water going to come from? Because it's so desert there.
Water is becoming like money in Arizona. And I'm not even kidding.
I believe it.
It is traded, sold like a commodity. There's these things called water credits, and it's a big debate over who gets it and how much of it there really is. It's not as bad as people say it is because, surprisingly, Arizona's been an agricultural state for a long time. And so we've pulled very deep for our water, where other states get to dig down 50 feet and find water. We often have to dig down 600 feet to find water. But that water previously was allocated to cotton fields and cornfields and agriculture. And surprisingly, tract home neighborhoods use less water than those agricultural applications. So in a way, what's happening is the water is shifting out of farming and into housing supply. And so it's there, but it is still heavily fought for, guarded, and managed.
Yeah, it's almost like oil in a way, in that it's a precious resource, right? So I live just outside of Chicago and we have Lake Michigan. So we're over here like splashing around like elephants at the zoo. We got so much water, but I always think about the other parts of the country, particularly those that are feeding us, right? There's California that they grow so much, but requires a lot of water, but it's feeding the nation. So it's a complicated topic for sure. With thousands of qualified integrators and suppliers, the CSIA Industrial Automation Exchange is your one-stop spot to identify and connect with a diverse community of integrators and suppliers to help you deliver a low-risk and successful project. Using this powerful platform, you can do customized searches and filter by industry vertical, expertise, location, certifications, and more to source the right partners and products for your needs. For SIs and partners, it provides a platform to support your content and SEO marketing efforts, position yourself as a thought leader, and nurture prospects during their complicated buyer's journey. Why not take a minute to visit www.csiaexchange.com and see for yourself? No swiping left, no swiping right. Just connect directly to quality industry experts. It's really that simple, I promise. So let's talk about your projects. You've talked a little bit about how you approach them and kind of what's unique, but expand on that topic for me. What's your special sauce other than fixing broken things?
Our special sauce?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess there's two things that I like to think that we do well. One is we love taking on unique projects with unique problems. We did a job, it's been a while now, but I personally had a ton of fun with this job. It was for an irrigation district. We don't do many irrigation districts. And we were not the control systems integrator. but they had a control systems integrator. And what they wanted was they wanted their farmers to be able to go online, access a web page, and order water in specific quantities and have it auto delivered with no human intervention down to the PLCs and the control valves in the field. And so I want 10,000 gallons at this field on this day. Here's my credit card. They had a web programmer who did all of that work. So they had this web page and they had this control system, and they couldn't find anyone to marry them up. Nobody knew how they connected. A friend of a friend actually gave me this referral and said, hey, could you just come in and figure out how to pass this data from out of the internet into these valves and from the valves to the internet? That was just a lot of fun. It was kind of a unique problem at the time. I think nowadays the tech is there a lot more to handle that type of thing. But at the time, it was a lot more research and development. And that was an awful lot of fun. We love unique problems. Those are just the funnest projects we take on. Also, I think we have a great onboarding process for new customers who need help maintaining stuff and maybe this is part of the research and development portion of us a little bit. We don't mind coming in behind other people. We've tried to make a sort of fun out of it. It's real easy as a programmer, as an engineer, to come in behind somebody and to want to complain or say, gosh, this really sucks. This person did a bad job. We hear it all the time in the industry. And inside of our company, we've developed a culture of never bad mouthing what would be our competition. It just doesn't help anybody. We always speak well and we look optimistically at the projects that we follow behind. And we like to think that we're even talented at being able to come behind somebody else, figure out what they were thinking, what their goals were. And when we get in to make our changes or we get in to do our maintenance, we don't destroy the systems that are there. We figure out what they were intending, what their tag naming conventions were, the ways that they program, and we duplicate and propagate those systems. And honestly, I feel like it's kind of a superpower. We work on that so that when somebody else comes behind somebody else, is not like, oh, this looks like 10 programmers have worked in here, or this panel looks like it's been hacked to pieces by 10 different technicians. I think we do those things really, really well.
I like giving the previous people the benefit of the doubt because you don't know what they were dealing with at the time. And maybe in their mind, it was perfectly logical the way they had it organized. And you're the one who's not being logical. You don't know, it's always a different perspective for sure.
Absolutely.
So you talked about some of your longest customers. If you had to quantify how much of your business is actually repeated, what would you say? And what would you say is the reason that they do come back?
I would imagine that 85% of the projects we do, 85% of the work we do, or potentially probably even more, is repeat business. And I guess I have a measure of pride there too. We've done a lot of growing this year, and the growth is probably even the reason why that other 15% is new customers this year, because we are good at taking care of people. That's part of what we focus on. As part of our corporate culture is we care for our customers. And honestly, that means that I had a customer one time kind of give us a shout out because it was Sunday and I was right in the middle of church, and it was a private water company running a little system and not a big customer. I think in the end, maybe we did $20,000 to $50,000 worth of work for them over 5 years. It was noon on a Sunday, and my employees, I didn't want to make them go out there on Sunday. So the company owner left in a suit and his tie, and I showed up on the job in a suit and a tie. And it was about a 20-minute fix. It was no big deal, but he deeply appreciated that. Nobody wants to go out at 2:00 in the morning and solve somebody's problem. Nobody wants to. But being optimistic about that and seeing the gratification and the change you made, the difference you made, the feedback from the customer, in a way, that's some of the most rewarding work. It's some of the best training for employees too, is learning how to do that and be excited about it even. And like, hey, this is my chance. I'm going to put on a cape and I'm going to go save the day. Losing a customer inside of our company is a big deal. It's a really, really big deal. Something we take very, very seriously. It's like, we don't do that. We don't lose customers. We fight for our customers. We take care of them.
So you mentioned that you're continuing to grow like 15%. How do you manage growth? And is there a strategy behind that? Because I think that's one of the most challenging parts about running a business is knowing when to take on another big chunk. Like everything's going smoothly. We're doing fine. And then this big project comes along and you're like, do I take it? That's hard, making those decisions. And what's your philosophy or strategy around scaling your business?
honestly, previously to our attendance of CSIA conference this year, our previous strategy was to work harder. So there's something to be said for that. And I could talk an awful lot on some of the things that I learned from the CSIA conference this year. But one of the things that I took away from it was we are working hard to become a CSIA certified company. And we really want that. When we look at what it means and what it does and how we operate, that's where we want to be. From the conference, we attended the EOS presentation from the Entrepreneurial Operating System group, and we will be deploying EOS inside of our company. And we're excited about it. We've really got our people on board with it and with the idea of becoming part of CSIA, learning what other people are doing and how they're managing it. Right now, everybody is up against this a little bit. Everybody's growing right now. Yeah. It's hard to not grow right now. So I think that having those systems in place, I think learning from what other people who've gone before us have done, and then having a growth mindset is important. And then honestly, our old work hard ethic is still part of it, is still like, we're going to try, we're going to do our best, and we're going to learn. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's that whole thing about working on your business and not necessarily in your business, which, is something everybody has to learn. Even as you're growing as a person in a career, you get rewarded early for working hard and doing the day-to-day tasks. So you get rewarded for that by being promoted. But then once you get promoted, it's a different skill set. Right now, you have to learn to delegate and you have to learn to let go of things. And that's a plateau that you have to get over. And it's the same, I'm sure, running a business like you do. And having a good business where you're set, I'm happy here and I'm got a good life. My employees got a good life. Not everybody has to be Steve Jobs either. So, figuring out where that is for you is a big part of it, I'm sure. So talk to me a little bit more about some of the projects that you found super challenging. You mentioned that the farmers getting water and marrying those two systems was a challenging project. But are there others that you'd like to talk about and how you solved the problem?
I would say that our people are really technically talented. We get excited about technical problems. And so I would call them not challenging. Those are almost inspiring. We love technical challenges. What for our company are larger projects, dollar-wise approaching that kind of $2 million mark, and where project management kind of needs to step up to a new level. And we've brought on some people to help us with that. And then we've placed some expectations on people who were previously project managers, but they were project managing these jobs that were kind of usually anywhere from 50,000 to $250,000 to sometimes $500,000, and they could almost keep it in their heads, right? So we'd make them do Gantt sheets, we would make them fill out punch lists, but they could very easily just track a lot of it in their heads. One project comes to mind right now, and again, I hope they don't mind me mentioning. I don't mind mentioning the town of Florence. We've done an awful lot of work in the town of Florence this last year, and there is just this aspect of customer communications. When they're spending more money, they want more communications. When they want to know continuously what the added value for that payout is. So we've got a person in there who really does a spectacular job. I would say that we have some lessons learned, but our most recent meetings tell us that they're very happy with what they've gotten, with the attention they've received, which is good. In the end, it needs to work and the customer needs to be happy. And usually you can't have one without the other, right? So I would say that handling bigger projects right now is our biggest challenge. We are good at knowing it's going to be a challenge ahead of time. And I think that's really important. Sometimes if you don't know what you don't know, you come at a project, and that's the biggest opportunity to mess everything up, is when you think you know something you don't. We were meeting with the lady from EOS, and one of their core values is, is it humbly confident, I think is what it is. Humble confidence, that idea that I don't know everything, but I don't have to feel dumb because I don't know everything. But being willing to admit that you don't know everything is, matter of fact, not even everything. Sometimes being willing to admit that you don't know a lot, that becomes a very good base to start any project from. Instead of focusing on what you do know, focus on what you don't know yet. So like I said, the town of Florence job, it was a very large job for us. And I think we've done well with it. I think we've done well, and we've had some great lessons learned, and it's successful.
And that'd be Florence, Arizona. Do you mostly work in Arizona?
We have customers who've ranged as far as Georgia, but geographically speaking, a lot of our customers are close. We have customers in California, customers in Texas, customers in Wyoming, Colorado. But I would say that probably 80 to 85% of our customers are based out of Arizona.
Let me ask you a question. Don't get mad. How many people in your life truly understand what it is that you do? I'm willing to guess the answer is not too many. I get it. So many of us toil in anonymity. But what if I told you that I have a place where you can go to meet and talk and commiserate with people who do understand what you do because they do the same thing? Amazing, I know. But that's really the bottom line what CSIA is all about. And recently, we've expanded our learning and networking opportunities to help you find your people. We're calling them special interest groups. These groups are aligned around topics such as emerging leaders or marketing, and they meet virtually throughout the year with some plans for meeting in person as well, probably in conjunction with the CSIA annual conference. We will be bringing more online throughout the year, but for now, if either of those topics sound interesting, go to www.controlsys.org/events to check out what we have lined up. Full disclosure, you do need to be a member of CSIA to join the marketing SIG, but the emerging leaders one is open to anyone who wants to give it a try. So why not take a minute and check out the upcoming schedule at www.controlsys.org/events. Your people are waiting. What would you say the smartest decision your company has made recently?
Okay, I don't want to sound like a kiss up. This is not because I'm talking with the CSIA podcast lady that I'm going to respond with this answer. Attending the CSIA conference this year was a very big deal for us. First of all, I'm going to say that I drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Was this your first time attending?
This is my first time attending. I feel like we run our company a little bit like a beetle under a rock. Shame on us a little bit because we've had our customers and I didn't know how much of a community there is out there. And when I went to the CSIA conference, that's what I found. I found a community with a lot of really good ideas to solve problems that I have been cracking my head on, I feel like, for a decade. And kind of being fully honest here, it was really interesting. We'd go to these conferences, we'd go to sessions, and there'd be these really talented, dynamic, optimistic presenters from EOS, the gentleman who did the for-profit presentation, the market. We attended the marketing. And there was a tremendous amount of positive energy in these meetings, and it was really, really good. And then you'd sit down at a table around a lunch, and it turned out most of the people there were kind of like me, say middle-aged individuals running a company that had somewhere between 10 and 50 people. And so you'd sit down at a table. I'd be like, oh, I'm staring at a bunch of me's. I won't call it pervasive. I will not call the attitude pervasive, but there was an attitude a little bit, and it was absolutely captured in the statement by one of these gentlemen who said he ran a little company. I think he had 20 employees, had been doing it for 30 years, something like that. And he said, this is all well and good, but don't tell me how to run my company. I was sitting there listening, and I could see some of the other people at the table kind of nod their heads a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, where do I want to be? Do I want to be here with this? And this was not everything. This was just one table I'd sat at. But do I want to be over here with these happy people, these optimistic people who are doing great in their industries, are doing great in their careers? And, one example of that is, sorry, again, I'm mentioning specific names, but the names are all the positive stories. There was a company there called Thermo Systems. They're very large compared to what we are. I think they've got like 300 employees compared to our 30. And I had a chance to sit down and talk to the CEO of this company. And it's a company with 300 people. Just observing him, he was so positive. He was an uplifting person to talk to. He talked to me like I was an equal, even though obviously, like if you look difference in revenue managed and people managed, like he'd been very, very successful in his career. And I deeply, deeply appreciated the way he spoke with me. And his marketing director was also, his whole staff was all that way. Honestly, there's 4 or 5 of them there. And Long story too long already. I've gone on about this too much. Attending CSIA, I found that there was this positive control systems integrator community that I honestly didn't know existed. And shame on me for keeping my head under that rock. I've been doing this for a number of years now, and not knowing that this was out there. But like I say, for us this year, we are taking an awful lot of what we learned there. I have nothing but good things. Our attendance of CSIA this year is changing the demographic of our company.
Nice. How many people did you bring to the conference?
Just myself. I wasn't even sure I was going to attend. We had so much work going on, that whole work on the business, work in the business thing. I'm a professional at working in the business. And at the last minute, my week got freed up and I flew myself there. So I'm glad that you asked that question, because I walked away from there thinking I should have had, my people, Josh and Ross and Robert, and these people, I should have had them there, because this is in my head now.
Yeah.
And so how do I get this out of my head and into their heads? First of all, I came home and I'm like, okay, we had a meeting, and I'm like, I've tried to share my optimism. Like, I can't share all the information. I can't train them like I was trained necessarily, but I can share my optimism and talk about how valuable I thought some of the things I learned are. We had our first meeting, our introductory meeting with the folks from EOS, because the folks from EOS, again, just great people. Her name is Mary. Jill did the presentation at CSIA, and she referred us to one of her colleagues, Mary. And Mary here in Phoenix did a wonderful presentation for my people. So I'm like, okay, so I can give them that portion of it, bring them up on that, and we're going to move forward with Mary as our coach and deploy EOS inside of Ripple Industries. Then, honestly, just next year, everybody may have to attend and see it. Everybody, it may become, I'm not sure, to take 30 people to CSI, that would be a little ridiculous. So, but when I say everybody, managerial staff, and I may even pull some of the younger people up, I think it's important that people feel like they are part of something bigger, that they're part of an industry and not just a company.
We do have some virtual emerging leaders events too, if you want to pull some people into those. I don't know if you're aware of that. So there are things throughout the year that get people involved. So just kind of off the record, you attended the marketing workshop. I helped organize that. So I'm just curious what your feedback was on that. Did you enjoy it? Would you go again?
The marketing workshop was the first thing I attended. It's where my view of what I was doing there began to change. I showed up early and I got a seat next to the marketing director for thermal systems. And she was super nice. And we're just talking back and forth. And this begins, and they start talking about all the things to do in marketing. Okay, shame on me. They're all the kind of things that I had turned my nose up at in the past. I'm like, do emails really make a difference? Should I really be worrying about branding? Honestly, I was that guy. Okay, so I'm sitting next to this lady. And at one point, I turned to her and I'm saying, is this really what I should be doing? Does this really work? And she looks me right in the eye and she says, this is exactly where you need to be right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. You're the marketing director for a company that does literally so much more work, like millions and millions of dollars more work than we do. You know what you're talking about. And then I went back and I tuned in, and that was kind of the point where I'm like, okay, pass the Kool-Aid this way a little bit. Like, let's be part of this. Moral of the story is that marketing workshop was spectacular. We are working on a branding and a relaunch for our company right now. And it is because of the massive amounts of notes that I took as part of that marketing workshop.
And you were talking earlier about how you find certain projects super rewarding when you solve a complex problem. Hearing your feedback on that marketing workshop is very rewarding for me, because we all worked super hard on that. We took a risk. It was all brand new. So hearing that feedback makes it all worth it. I appreciate that. So glad you got some stuff out of it. And that's awesome. And, congratulations to you for being open to it. Admitting that, I was kind of skeptical about things, but then was able to change my mind on that. A lot of people get really dug in on whatever it is that they think and will never change their mind. So that's a testament to your willingness to learn. Appreciate that.
No, thank you. And you did a great job.
So let's get back to you. Let's talk about your company and how it's grown and changed in the past year. And what are your hopes for the next couple of years?
Growth-wise, I guess you could put numbers to it. Our revenues were up by about 75% this year. Managing that's been a great lesson for me. So we're up about 75% this year. Our goal was 40% growth honestly, this year, we're going to be up another 75% at the present trajectory, just on what we're doing month to month and what the projects projected out are. That's been really, really great. Really a lot of growth experience opportunities there for all of us inside of Ripple Industries. It's forcing us and helping us to understand what we're really good at. And that has been great. In the past, I've been described as a little bit of, company owners can be like this. I chase shiny objects. Okay. So,
yeah.
And this is helping me to realize like, okay, we have this specialty area of these things that we're really, really good at. And the way we're going to grow is we're going to focus on these things, like taking care of customers, maintaining those relationships, trying to build a base of better customers too. The nice thing about having this maintenance model, helping people with their day-to-day operations, is you can kind of test drive customers on a low risk basis. You know what I mean? Customers can be bad too. Like, supplier that's bad. Sometimes it's the customer that's bad. And when they are, it's a low commitment to say that we did just a few $1,000s worth of maintenance work for them. And maybe it's not a good fit for us because we try very, very hard to maintain and build those relationships, take very, very good customers. And what we hope is reciprocated. And it's not just monetarily, right? It's an attitude. Did they even say thank you when you left the job site at 3:00 in the morning? And we've had customers that they said, that's great. You did what you're supposed to. That's what we expect out of our vendors. You expect all of your vendors to stay till 3:00 in the morning, because your operator pushed a button he shouldn't buzz. But most people, and I'll say most people, are reasonable. I think most people want to be even kind and considerate and professional in their work environment. And that's what we're looking for. Our growth is based around finding good people and working for them.
It's taking a longer term view of things because you're not going to be able to hang on to employees if you're sending them into environments where they're not being appreciated or, a worst case scenario, being abused or what have you. They're not going to stick around, and it's just a race to the bottom then at that point, right? So yeah, it's not always about the money. It's thinking longer term and being able to build a culture of your company, them knowing that you've got their back and all that good stuff. So I totally get that. So if you had a prospective customer in your office right now, what advice would you give to him or her researching engineers or system integrators?
I would strongly recommend that they consider the maintenance model that a company has. Are they here to do a project, or are they here to build a relationship? If the company that supplies you with a project can also maintain that project afterwards, that's really helpful. But if not, have a maintenance plan. Maybe you've done your homework and you really like the way these 3 system integrators work. And there's this one over here that does an amazing deployment of a particular combination of products of Allen Bradley and Ignition, right? Something really obvious that's happening a lot. And you really love what they've done. You maybe love their graphics they use, or you love how well their process control works, but they don't necessarily have a good maintenance model. At least have a plan in place. In modern business, I don't think it's bad to point out people's weaknesses. I think vulnerability is appreciated, to understand what you're really good at and to understand what you're not good at. And so I think it's okay to tell a company like, hey, you provide this product and we really like it, but you don't necessarily have a good maintenance model from what we can see of you. What can you offer us? What can you do for us? What's your warranty plan? Because honestly, the ability to maintain systems is also the ability to honor the warranties on the things that you build. And so some of our customers or our competition, they have us handle some of their warranty work. They just pay us to handle their warranty work because that's not necessarily what they do. So from a customer standpoint, ask yourself what you're looking for and ask yourself beyond, once that's given to you, how you are going to manage with these company or companies that you're using. How are you going to keep this control system that you're purchasing? How are you going to keep this running for 20, 30, 40, 50 years? And how are you going to get your money out of it long term?
OMG. Can you believe it's the middle of the year already? I find that, well, shocking. On the upside, it means I can offer you something special if one of your goals is to join CSIA. And why wouldn't you? This global community has so much to offer SIs, from best practices to certification, professional development, and even access to professional services experts, including insurance, financial, and legal, who understand the SI's unique business needs. For partner members, CSIA offers an ecosystem to grow your SI programs, understand your customers' pain points, monitor industry trends, and share your thought leadership. Best of all, CSIA is a soft place to land. By that, I mean it is a community of like-minded people who are willing to share, commiserate, and celebrate your wins, your losses, and your vision. So what are you waiting for? Oh, wait, you're probably waiting for my special offer. Here it is. For the months of July and August, membership dues and all Industrial Automation Exchange upgrades and packages are half price. And no, this is not half off like I am crazy Jimmy yelling, everything must go. It's really just because CSIA prorates its dues, but boy, that lacks excitement, doesn't it? To find out more, visit www.controlsys.org/shine. Wait, maybe I should do the crazy Jimmy route after all. I was at a trade show, I think it was Rockwell's trade show, and somebody came up to me and was like, I listened to the podcast. I work for an end user. He didn't use the word end user, but he worked for an end user. I'm like, that's so great to hear that you're listening to the podcast. Like, yeah, I have this long drive and I just pop it in the truck and listen on my way to work. And I'm like, what's one question, you wished I would ask people? You're listening. Are you shouting at your dashboard? Ask this, ask this. And he's like, yes, I want to know about maintenance. Why don't these people ever think about maintenance? And that completely tracks with what you're saying there, that it's all well and good to get that shiny new thing in there. But if nobody's going to take care of it, it's a challenge, right?
It's just a challenge that's generated by so much growth. There's so much growth that it's hard to maintain the things that we build as a people, as an industry.
So what's the biggest challenge you think facing the automation marketplace for today and maybe in the future?
People. Probably this extends beyond the automation industry. We are all competing for the same group of up and coming youth that are looking for careers and looking for lives. And there's just not enough of them. If we're honest, right now, probably as my competition, more than competing for work, we are competing for people. And again, not using names, I had an interesting conversation with one of the larger integrators in this industry. I guess larger, they were like a few hundred. And they said that their turnover was almost, I think the number he used was like, if they needed 100 new people on staff, he would have to hire 175 because they would lose 75 that year. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
How the heck do you stay in business? I didn't say that to him. I didn't say that.
Of course not.
Like, of course not. But I'm like, how do you stay in business with that much turnover? Honestly, we almost never lose people here. We lost a guy recently, and it took him about 6 months, and he came back, and so he's back here. And
probably inside, there's a little bit of you. Yeah, there's a little bit.
That's exactly like
happy dance. Yeah,
and I liked him. So when he said, like, "Hey, I've got a job opportunity. I really need to pursue it," and it was like, "Hey, it's okay. We've loved you here. You've been great for us. Go with our blessing. And if you reach a point where you decide you don't like that and you want to come back and talk to me, I don't know if I'll be in a place to hire you, but there's an open door here to say, at least come back and talk to me." And he came back, and that was really good because he took a lot of tribal knowledge with him. He took information and skills that he had learned here. And so I'm bringing him back. It was kind of like, yay, I've got a new employee and I don't have to train him. So
yeah. Well, you'll find if you do go through the certification process, SOPs and documenting everything so you don't have this brain drain if somebody leaves is going to be a big part of it. I'm sure they're going to tell you need to document everything because it's not uncommon for people. Like you were talking about your project managers, they have it all in their head and they're not necessarily writing it down. And it's going to be a habit that everybody's going to have to learn, I think. What makes you optimistic about the future of the control systems industry?
There's so much going on here in the way of needs. The market is there. There are all these technological advancements that are going on, watching the possibilities with AI in our industry and how it can be used and integrated. It's just increasing demand. I think people love to be part of things that are changing and growing. And the opportunity to innovate is a tremendous opportunity inside of our industry right now. I think that things like the nature and our understanding of sustainability and how our industry is involved in contributing to the sustainable lifestyle, the sustainable life of this planet, that creates an opportunity. The technology, the industry, the resiliency, adaptability, there's a tremendous amount of support in the industry from government levels at large corporation levels just to increase this. But honestly, CSIA is part of this, right? CSIA is a big part of this. The work, the awareness that is out there, and just the perspectives that are being developed by communities like you, it creates opportunity. It grows the industry. And I don't think there's a ceiling on this industry. The ceiling is only as high as we make it.
What is the biggest benefit? I mean, you've talked a lot about CSIA and how you've learned a lot from us, but if you could say the biggest one for you, what would it be?
I would say that the largest benefit of CSIA is belonging to a community where ideas are openly shared and you can learn from other people's mistakes and from their successes. That is so huge. Gosh, I would so much rather be better at listening to somebody else and just skipping the whole learn the hard way thing that so many of us go through. And that's a big deal. Another part of it too, and part of that is really interesting. While at CSIA and while meeting with Thermo Systems, one of their investors was there. She's a very, very nice lady. Again, another person who has been so successful in her career and was just kind enough to talk to me as an equal. She attends many, many conferences because her family, her group, they hold worldwide investments and they're part of lots of industries. And she was at CSIA and she made the comment, she's like, people are so friendly here. She's like, you guys are all competition, but you're not treating each other. She's like, some of the other competitions that I go to, it's just cutthroat. It's everybody's out for themselves. And she's like, everyone here is just so nice. They want to share what they know and have everyone else succeed. That's a big deal. That's a big, big deal.
I agree. My whole career has been with working with the different associations in all kinds of different industries. And this is a very unique culture that CSI has at the conference. It's super unique. Love it. All right. So let's kind of do some fun stuff now. Let's talk about you as a person. And if you couldn't do what you do right now, what career would you choose instead?
Race car driver. That'd be an awful lot of fun. I have a son who wants to be a race car driver. Fighter pilot would be super cool. Science fiction novelist. I wrote one science fiction book. It's available on Amazon. There's my plug for my science.
Okay, well, tell us the name of the book then. If you're going to do your pluggables, do the pluggables.
Awesome. Thank you. Epsiode 9 is my contribution to the vast volumes of teenage science fiction and fantasy novels out there. Epsiode 9, like the Greek word Actaeon. Not a very good name for a book, probably. People can't remember that word. But anyways, I wrote the book for fun. It's available on Amazon and Audible. So
give me the plot, the 1 to 2 sentence plot summary.
It's going to sound ridiculous. I had this really weird dream that my family got kidnapped by aliens. Anyways, that's what the premise started as a group of teenagers that are traded into slavery.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
To an alien civilization. It starts out on Earth, travels there, and I won't too many spoilers for the plot, but we're traveling with a group of kind of 14, 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids as they are extricated from this planet and moved across the universe.
So, what is the best advice you could give your younger self just getting started?
There's not a ton of regret behind this, but with that idea of just discovering CSIA, I wouldn't say that I've lost excitement, but I've had periods where my head was just down and I was just working. And I thought that was what I needed to do. And let's say that was the working in the business versus working on the business. And so I would say that my career could have been made more meaningful by getting involved early on with my professional community, with CSIA, and feeling and realizing that I am a part of something bigger that's going on, that there is an industry out there, and that there are people that are involved in this and networking and making friends and bringing in other ideas. Because honestly, we're made smarter by other people. We get new ideas by hearing about other people's new ideas, and get involved in your professional community and don't lose excitement for what you're doing.
That's it for today's episode of Talking Industrial Automation. If you are interested in learning more about Jeromy or Ripple Industries, you can find them on the Industrial Automation Exchange at www.csixchange.com. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Jeromy, for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also really help the show by leaving a review and sharing with colleagues. We're all just slaves to the logarithm now, so I gotta ask. Thanks for listening to the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. Thanks also to bensound.com and Wistia for the music bumpers. Until next time.